Hello, welcome back, and this is our scene, our table and chair scene that we have so far. Well, we need to add a environment. So what I'm going to do first is get you started with lighting. Okay, please read all the lighting lectures about three-point lighting systems. And then I'm going to take you through, we're going to add that to this, but we're going to go slow on this with the lighting, and we want to look as realistic as possible. We also want to get reflection off the glass. Glass is very difficult to render anyway, and may take a lot of time, so we need to kind of take it kind of slow so you get a good idea of how rendering really works. With Arnold, we normally want to use a sky dome unless you're doing a full interior where you have light coming in into the windows of an enclosed scene. But we're not going to get that in depth. That's doing interior lighting is way more difficult. So we're going to do just quick lighting here just to kind of get what would look good and some reflection in the glasses and just go from there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off wireframe on shaded. Okay, turn that off. And we're going to go ahead and get the Arnold renderer set up. So if you look at display render settings, okay, it looks like a clapboard with a gear on the lower right hand corner of it. You can go to Arnold. I think you can go to render settings that way, or you can go to, let's see, we can go into rendering here and go to render and render settings here if you want to do it that way. Okay, you can either click on this icon here or go to make sure you have rendering selected, and then you can go to render settings, and it takes you in the same spot. Anyway, the comments tab kind of tells us all the common attributes that we can add. Usually I don't mess around with this too much unless I'm going to render out multiple frames for an animation. But the one you want to be mindful of is where you can set the image size. So when we do a full render, when I ask for an HD 1080, I mean it's a resolution. So HD 1080 is our final output. So when we are lighting and testing renders, we don't want to go that high because that's a waste of time. Okay? But the aspect ratio is all the same. So if we set up HD 540 and set up the frame for the render, and we can either go to HD 720 or HD 1080 and the same proportion, so it never changes. Okay, it's just the resolution. Okay, so this width is 1920 by height 1080, which is a fairly large render. Okay, when we go to, and that's the only thing we're gonna really pay attention to right now. This is where your renderable camera is perspective. We'll just keep it at that. We're not going to create a camera just now. So next is the Arnold renderer. This is where we can set up our sampling, and the lowest sample rates are set up right now. This will not work with subsurface scattering, which is what we need with the glass. Okay. Transmission needs to be set up a little higher too as far as glass goes. Okay. So right now we got the lowest setting, so the glass won't really render that well. And then under advanced, ray depth, this is where we have when light penetrates the glass, how many times will the light bounce around. Okay. So with transmission, we have it set at 8 as a default. But we probably want to bring that up to somewhere around 12. Click on enter. Transparency to 12 instead of 10. Okay, and ray depth, probably set that up to 12. Okay, just to play it safe. This will slow us down as far as render time goes, but this will be helpful to be able to see the glasses as they are, which are transparent. And the rest is just good to go. So we'll click off. One thing I want to do is the chairs are too far away from the table, so I'm going to move them in. So it looks like something like that would work a little bit better. So I'm going to select one and shift select the other and hit the W key and move them in just about halfway. That looks more natural, I think, what a scene would look like. Here we go. All right, the next thing, once we get that prepped up, the next thing we want to do is we want to get our perspective set up to kind of the way we want to see it. So I'm going to kind of set that up. And what we want to do is we want to click on the resolution gate, and that tells me exactly what my scene will look like. Now I've got mine set up in 1920 by 1080, so I need to click on the display render settings again, and I need to go in here and make sure I don't have that set up to 1080. I need to set up to HD 540. Okay, when I close, you'll notice that it's changed 960 to 540, but the aspect ratio has not changed, which is really cool. Another thing, I've got the mask on, gate mask. Okay, what that does is it gives me a mask around the resolution gate. Okay, and next to it is the field chart, which allows me to go ahead and move my camera so I can get the center of this scene. Okay, this just kind of helps me center my perspective. Okay, something like that. And I'm going to turn that back off again. Okay. Right. We need to have headroom of about a ½ inch to an inch. So I can probably zoom in a little bit more. To this, we want a ½ inch on top, ½ inch on the bottom. Okay, that's kind of set up, kind of our rule. ½ inch on top, ½ inch on bottom. You could do a safe action title. You could do a, this is safe title, this one's safe action. So usually I have the safe action on. We don't really use safe title anymore, but safe action is good. So I'm going to bring that in, and that keeps the object in frame. There we go. Great. So that looks pretty good. So now my camera's set up, and what I want to do is I need to lock that camera in. So I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to Bookmarks. I'm going to click on Edit Bookmarks. Okay. And I want to make sure I'm looking through the perspective. It says I'm looking through the perspective. Okay. So I'm going to click on New Bookmark. And I'm going to rename that something like CAM 01. And we are looking on the left side, so that will be left. Okay, I'm going to click on click enter. Okay, and then I want to click on apply and close, and then I'm going to rotate, holding down the alt key, and rotate that around to the right side and kind of get the shot set up like that. And I'm going to go to View, Bookmarks, and Edit Bookmarks. Click on New Bookmark, and this will be, I'm going to call this CAM, okay, _02, and this will be right. There we go. And click enter, hit the enter key, and then apply, and then close. Okay, now I can zoom out and just mess around with the whole entire scene if I want to. And then when I'm ready to render, I can go to View, Bookmarks, and click on either CAM 01 left or CAM 01 right. So click on left. There's a left. And then when I go to View and I go to Bookmarks, I can go to click on right. So that's really kind of nice. You can get your camera set up and set up perspective, and you can mess up your perspective, mess around, go to view, click on bookmarks, then click back on and render. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out again. We got our camera set up. Now we got to get our light source set up so we can see what we're doing. Okay, the render will turn out black right now. We don't have any lights in the scene, so I'm going to go to on the shelf. I'm going to find Arnold. Okay, this one right here. And under lighting, I'm going to click on Create Sky Dome Light. Okay, this just gives us a generic sky dome. And the attributes for the sky dome are intensity at 1, resolution at 1000, okay, and exposure at 0, samples at 1. It's casting shadows, and the volume samples are at 2. Okay, the visibility, that means right now it's going to turn white, so the visibility of the camera is at 1, so it's 100%. If you want to turn that, if you want to make that black, you can set it to 0. We're going to keep it at 1 so you can see it, so you know what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to go back into View, Bookmarks. Okay, we're not going to change any of the settings on the sky dome, and we're going to go ahead and click on Render. This is a render up here. This is called a full render frame, so we're going to click on that. We're going to do that first, and this will bake all the textures and the maps together as TX files, because that's what Arnold wants to see every time we render. There's a plus and a minus to that. What it does is it converts all the textures, but it takes a long time for the first time to convert those textures over from PNGs to TX files. But once it's done, it will remember that. But here's the thing. I would make sure that you're not running off your flash drive when you do this. Okay, so I think we mentioned that before with the adding textures in Maya. So hopefully you're running off your main computer, your desktop, or a SSD card or SSD external hard drive. You can't do this on a flash drive. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and do a render. Okay, it should change all of those files into TX files. It's going to take a little time. And you just have to wait it out. And I'm going to pause this until it goes all the way through. Oh, it's already started, giving me 1%. Okay. Okay, mine's working pretty fast. Ooh, look at that. Looks pretty good so far already. Awesome. Wow, that was fast. Of course, I have a very fast video card. Well, it's running off my my CPU. This is CPU, you can see. So 36 seconds, 960 by 540 CPU, and the samples were at 32222, the lowest sample rate, and it took 2,806.27 megabytes. Okay, and that looks pretty good. I mean, it's a little grainy on the floor, but really not too bad of an image. Not too bad at all. Pretty happy with that. I'm gonna close that. Okay, let me show you how to actually save this file here. So I'm gonna go to File, Save Image. Okay, all right. So we will go ahead and type in, and it tells us the types of images we can actually save it as .jpg, .png, .tga. You'll have to put these dots and the extension on there of what you want it to be. So I'm going to type in table, right? Table scene _scene. and I'm going to type in 540. Okay. So that tells me that its resolution is 540, which is very small. And then I'm going to type in .jpg. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And this is saved. This is going to save in the images folder of my project. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Save image options. Okay. I think we're good there. All right, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to see the glass. That looks pretty good, actually. Looks really good. All right, so with that done, I'm going to take you through the process of adding an HDR image. Now this is a good time to, in module 2, you're gonna, I've got the textures that I want you to use. I mean, you can add them to your Substance Painter. And then I have HDR images that you can download too. And I want you to download those, unzip them, and place them into your source images folder. Okay? So do that now. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so you went ahead and downloaded the HDR images that I found on Polyhaven. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to add an HDR image to your environment dome, your Sky Dome, the Arnold Sky Dome. So click on their Sky Dome. Okay, if it's not clicked on, make sure you click on it, highlight it, and what we're going to do here is in the color area, we're going to go click on the option box, go to 2D and File, Texture, scroll up, make sure you turn off on filter type, find your image that you'd like to use. You can see I've got blue photo, which I don't want to use, brown, which would be good because it's got warm colors. I don't know why I have two of them in here. Oh, I guess I've got, this one's kind of nice. It's kind of, this is warm, this is neutral. I'm looking for other ones, and they're HDR. You can see that. If they don't have the HDR next to them, they won't work. So I've got the Christmas photo, which is cool. Comfy cafe. You guys can experiment with. Let's see what else. Other ones that I have in here. I don't see any other ones. If you see them, feel free to kind of experiment with those. So I'm going to go with the warmer one, or excuse me, the Photo Studio, just for fun, for the first one we do. I'm going to click on Open. Okay. Now when you zoom out, you can see that you've got the HDR image in the scene with you. Now notice that it is kind of blurry, right? We really don't want to see the actual image because that looks kind of goofy, right? Even if I get close, it looks kind of goofy. So I really don't want to see that. So we'll worry about that in just a second. But I want to render this to show you kind of what it looks like. So right now we have the color intensity. The resolution is 2K, so I'm going to type in 2000. Okay, there we go. Exposure, intensity 1, exposure, let's do 1 on that. There we go. Samples, let's do that at 2. Cast shadows, yes. Okay. What direction is the light coming from? Let's kind of rotate around. Is there a window in here? Yes. Okay. And it's facing the right way. Okay, that's good. So it's kind of facing this way on your, the right hand side. Okay. So if I'm facing Z, it is, the windows are facing a little bit in the Z over to this side over here. Okay, so the windows are coming this way. Okay, we just have to remember that. Okay, now I can rotate the, so the windows are facing over here, right? I prefer that. So what I'm going to do is zoom out, and I'm going to rotate the dome so it's facing, the windows are facing over here on this side. So I'm going to zoom in again. Okay. All right. And hit the Q key. So now I got the windows facing over on this side, spilling into this side over here. Okay, that'll be good. Okay. All right, so right now it doesn't make too much of a difference, but the light will be coming in through this way. Okay. This will give us kind of a nice window or a nice render here. Again, we're going to see the background when we render, and you'll see why it's not good. So I'm going to go to View, Bookmarks, Camera Right this time. Yep. Okay. And we have the same render. So let's go ahead and click on Render right here. Render the curtain frame, or you can go to Rendering. Go to Render, and you can click on Render Curtain Frame here. So it's rendering right now. Ooh, much faster now that the textures were all set up. Oh, that looks much nicer. We have a nice reflection on the glasses, and that's why it's so important to have a good, oh wow, that was really fast. That was 13 seconds. That's great. Okay. So that's with the natural HDR lighting. Boy, that looks really nice. So I'm going to close that. That's rendering really, really super fast. So I want to get rid of the image itself. So I'm going to turn that to 0. Okay. So now I'm going to render it again, and the background should be black now. Okay. If I want a neutral color in the background instead of black, I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to, once it's done here, 12 seconds on that. So I'm going to turn that to something like 0.1. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the render icon right here. Okay, you can see that I have kind of it's a darker image of the background, but it doesn't change the brightness of the scene. Okay. All right. We have a lot of graininess in the shadows here. Okay. We also want to add a directional light in the scene to give us not harsher shadows, but some kind of shadows in here. Okay. Even though we got some nice shadows going on in here, we kind of want to show a little bit more of that, okay, in the scene here. So let's go ahead and close that. And so what I usually do is I zoom out, find out where the light is coming from, and then create a directional light that is facing that, you know, where the windows, the light would be coming in from the windows, and simulate that. So I'm going to go to create lights, and then create directional light. I'm going to take this directional light and move it up. I kind of got a general direction of where the light is coming from, so I'm going to rotate that like this. Okay. And I'm also going to rotate it down like this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to hit the R key and scale that up. Okay, you can see that the light is kind of coming through those windows down in that direction, similar to the direction of the windows in here. And this takes some getting, prepping with it. It's kind of getting, and I'm going to scale that up a little bit more even to kind of see if I got that correct. And that's pretty close. So I'm going to scale that back down. Zoom in, scale down, zoom in, and scale down like that. All right. So I can keep even scaling that down even more. And it just, the directional light is more about how it's rotated, not where it is. So I'm going to pull it up away from the chairs and table. There we go. Now the directional light will have its own attributes here. You can see directional light shape 1. The color, we want to give it a kind of a warmth color. Okay, so when I go in here, I'm going to give it just a slight warmth. Okay, just slightly. It's very light. Okay, click off. And we want to go into Arnold. Okay, use color temperature. Okay, now we probably don't need to add color to this. Let's go ahead and go back to white again, because it's gonna mess it up. So I'm gonna, instead of using a color here, I'm gonna go into Arnold, use color temperature. Okay, in here I'm gonna type in something like 5500. Okay, hit enter, and that gives us a warm color. Exposure needs to be something like, let's keep it low at like 0.25. Okay. Intensity, let's do 0.25. Okay, and we're just gonna go slow with this. I got exposure at 0.5. Let me try 0.5 on that. 0.5. There we go. And we want it to cast shadows. We want the shadow density to be 1 in volume samples. Let's just take a look at what we have so far. So let's go to View, Bookmarks, right camera, and we're going to go ahead and click on Render. And we can see the shadows are getting darker. Okay, that was 12 seconds. I'm going to turn that off, and I have the light source still on. So this time I'm going to type in 1. Okay. And exposure to as 1. Here we go. All right, let's go ahead and do another render. Oh, now we're seeing some dark texture, some dark shadows in here. Here we go. Glasses as well, but the chairs especially are showing shadows. That's really good. So I'm going to close that. They're very sharp, so I'm going to soften those up a little bit. So the angle softens, so the shadow will be really sharp right here, but then diffuse out as it goes across. So I'm going to type in 2. Normally I just start off with 2 for the angle. Samples need to be set at 2. Okay, this will slow the render down a little bit, but that will look much nicer, okay, for samples. And it's really grainy still. When you add a light source, it starts to add grain and stuff to it, but I'll show you how to fix all that. I'm going to click on render again. We're just trying to get the render to look decent. Shadows are looking good on the table, because we have direct sunlight, so that's going to add some shadows. Okay, I'm going to close that, and now we're ready to mess around with some of the samples in here. So when you have graininess, you want to usually raise that to somewhere around 6. Okay, and diffuse is going to be set to around 3, specular 3, and transmission really matters. We're going to set that to 3. We don't have any subsurface scattering, just transmission for our glass. We've already got this set up pretty high, so that's really good. And then on the Commons tab, I think we're close to starting to look at our full screen, full resolution, and this will take some time, so I might have to pause the video. My computer's pretty fast. It's like 3 years old, but it's still pretty fast. It's like an i9 or something like that processor. So I'm going to click on render again. This time it's going to give us a larger render size. I'm going to hit the F9, excuse me, I'm going to pause this a minute and get back to you when it's done rendering. Okay, the render finally stopped. I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit, hit 1:1. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit larger. There we go. And I'm going to just kind of flip back a little bit with my mouse. Okay. There we go. So you can see my CPU is pretty fast, and it did 5 minutes 26 seconds. This is the reason why you don't do a high resolution image right away. You want to do HD 540, just kind of testing everything out. Okay, that doesn't look bad at all. There's some more tweaking, but that's it for this video. I want you to go to File, Save Image. I'm going to click on this and just type in HD 1080 and then underscore. I'm just going to type in 01. That's just frame 1 that I have, and I'm going to type in .jpg for JPEG and click save. Here we go. And that is it. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.